9? Okay.
Yeah, the normal gig probably means a lot, many more hours away from home.
Yeah, like we're doing an opera.
Our Yizkor service for this Yom Kippur begins on page 540, A lead.
Shelo
was off, I apologize. Eternal God, we ask your help, for our need is great. Our days fly past in quick succession, and we cannot look back without regret or ahead without misgiving. We seek to understand the mystery of our own lives, but our effort is in vain. And when suffering and death strike those we love, our faith all but fails us, and we forget that we are your children. God, help us now to feel your presence when our own weaknesses and the storms of life hide you from our sight. Help us to know that you are with us still. Uphold us with the comfort of your love. Continue on page 544. Keep me, Eternal One, for you I find refuge, and in you my soul finds its peace. Guardian of all my days, you are my cup from which I drink, and the portion of my life. I thank you for guiding my steps, for the inner voice that instructs me. I have set you before me always. With you beside me I cannot fail. So my heart is glad, my soul rejoices, and all of me can rest secure, for you will not abandon me in death. You show me the path of life, and your presence is fullness of joy. On page 546, as the number 7 is a Jewish symbol of wholeness and holiness, this Yizkor service offers 7 ways to reflect on loss and memory, grief and healing. We choose, alone and together, from among these diverse lights. And without lighting the candles that they point out to on this Yizkor service for Yom Kippur, we will touch on the 7 themes, beginning on page 549. On the loss of loved ones. The death of a loved one is the most profound of all sorrows. The grief that comes with such a loss is intense and multifaceted, affecting our emotions, our bodies, and our lives. Grief is preoccupying and depleting. Emotionally, grief is a mixture of raw feelings such as sorrow, anguish, anger, regret, longing, fear, and deprivation. Grief may be experienced physically as exhaustion, emptiness, tension, sleeplessness, or loss of appetite. Grief invades our daily lives in many sudden gaps and changes, like that empty place at the dinner table or the sudden loss of affection and companionship, as well as in many new apprehensions, adjustments, and uncertainties. The loss of loved ones throws every aspect of our lives out of balance. The closer we are to the person who died, the more havoc the loss creates. Love does not die quickly. Hence, to grieve is also to celebrate the depth of the union. Tears are then the jewels of remembrance, sad but glistening with the beauty of the past. So grief in its bitterness marks the end, but it also is praise to the one who is gone. On page 555, on inner strength and survival. On 556, I turn my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help comes from the eternal maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your guardian will not slumber. See, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. The Eternal is your guardian. The Eternal is your protection at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. The Eternal will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul. The Eternal will guard your going and coming now and forever. And on 561, on the holiness of memory, let us read further on this page responsively the echo of your promise. When I cry, my voice trembles with fear. When I call out, it cracks with anger.
How can I greet the dawn with song, when darkness eclipses the rising sun?
To whom shall I turn when the clouds of the present eclipse the rays of tomorrow?
Turn me around to yesterday, that I may be consoled by its memories.
Were not the sea split asunder? Did we not once walk together through the waters to the dry side?
Did we not bless the bread that came forth from the heavens?
Did your voice not reach my ears and direct my wanderings?
The
Let the past offer proof of tomorrow. Let it be my comforter and guarantor.
I have been here before, known the fright, and found your companionship.
I enter the sanctuary again to await the echo of your promise. Page 567. Our most precious relationships. Yesh Kokavim, 567. So, while on an individual or personal level, death may not be an everyday discussion, and thank God that it's not, unless we found some mechanism for tuning it out or becoming numb to it as a self-preservation technique, it would be a challenge to avoid the topic of death these days. Most prominent in the news is the COVID-19 pandemic. In the U.S., the total number of deaths is over 662,000 and counting. Worldwide, it's over 4.55 million. The 20th anniversary of 9/11, with its extensive coverage, replayed the tragedy for us. For the families of 9/11 victims, the tragic loss has never gone away. Hurricanes, wildfires, and floods have added to a sense of mortality-induced vulnerability. I'm not about to embark on a politically based discussion of the aforementioned topics. After all, this is our Yom Kippur Yizkor service. We are moved in this moment to connect to our emotions surrounding our respective losses and to give meaning to memory, whether those memories give us sadness, whether those memories give us comfort and warmth, or all of that and more. I bring up recent events not to be the one more voice in the cacophony of voices that nobody can or wants to hear. Rather, I was moved by how at least some of our media covered with emotion, dignity, and meaning how those who we lost lived their lives. The many, many heroes of September 11th, heroes in our ongoing battle against the pandemic, nurses, doctors, other healthcare workers, first responders. And of equal, if not greater importance, in segments such as Lives Well Lived, we learn about how supposedly ordinary people all live extraordinary lives. As rabbi, I have this opportunity to learn about the unsung heroes virtually every time I walk a family through a funeral in the Jewish process of grieving a loss. Ordinary people who, without much fanfare, have an outsized positive impact on family, friends, co-workers, and community. People honor me by sharing their lives with me, and that is not more apparent at any other time than these moments when they lose a loved one. As an aside, you should never confuse honoring lives with funerals or services referred to as celebrations of life. When it comes to celebrations of life, I'm not really a fan. I don't think in the immediate days after someone has died is the time for a celebration of life or any celebration. Judaism provides space in this time to grieve and feel sadness. There's never an expectation that feelings of sadness be subjugated. If feelings of pain become warm memories as time goes on, that's great, but Judaism never dictates how one should feel after a loved one dies, nor is there any timeline as to somebody getting over it. Honoring and sustaining memory seems to be a central piece of who we are as Jews. L'dor vador, from generation to generation. We continually emphasize the importance of staying connected to the generations that preceded us, and to be mindful that how we live our lives impacts the generations to come. But this is just not just some piece of theology. The need to stay connected to our forebears is for us driven more by our need to stay attached emotionally. How to stay attached emotionally, attached to our loved ones who have died. For one, my casual observation is that observing a yortzeit and reciting Mourner's Kaddish is of enormous importance. Even for Jews who rarely come to shul and who generally disdain ritual observance, they will make an extra effort to come to shul to honor memory via Mourner's Kaddish. One way to understand the purpose of reciting Mourner's Kaddish is that you are serving as an advocate before God, advocating for the well-being of your deceased loved one in Olam Haba, in the world to come. Whether or not you believe in an afterlife, and if you do, reciting Mourner's Kaddish gives your loved one a leg up with God, what matters is that you are doing something for your loved one, and by doing so, you are staying attached in the relationship. We have some need for the relationship to continue. This continual attachment to relationship through Mourner's Kaddish is part of a bigger piece that I spoke about this morning, our ongoing need to construct myth regarding an afterlife. What we refer to as eschatological speculation may seem a little out of whack for a people that leans toward rational thought, but as myth, it plays an important role in our Jewish collective thought. Rabbi Neil Gilman, who I cited to this morning, talks about Jewish myth in general and specifically about the myth of an afterlife in his book, The Death of Death, Resurrection and Immortality in Jewish Thought. Gilman observes that myth cements the identity of a particular culture or civilization. Myth is true in a soft sense. Myth is not formed out of the blue. Rather, myth originates out of how we as humans, or in our case, as we as Jews, experience the world and life. For Gilman, myth becomes true when we live our lives in accord with the myth, and they become true when they work. Which leads us into the eschatological myth, the myth of an afterlife. For Gilman, Rabbi Gilman, the myth of an afterlife is central to Jewish myths. Our deaths are not final. At the end of days, our bodies will be reunited with our souls. Gilman asserts that there is a strong, compelling case to be made for the Jewish myth of an afterlife. As human beings, we are more than plants and animals. As human beings, our needs cannot be met by a framework that rests on botany or zoology alone. We are animals, but we also feel, we deliberate, and we think. We have the ability, and I add here that we should, inquire as to the meaning of our lives. We are conscious of our inner life, a consciousness that distinguishes us from plants and animals. For us, as the Jewish people, the afterlife is represented as the time in which there is an end to war, violence, poverty, and hunger, an end to idolatry. As individual Jews, the afterlife is where we are reconstituted and will be reunited with our loved ones. We need this afterlife. We need to know there is an end to our story in order to give purpose to the lives we live now here on earth. Without a beginning, which is our personal creation stories, or an end, we don't know where we are or who we are. I think it is vital to live our lives knowing who we are, that our lives do have purpose and meaning. As Gilman mentioned, that we are animals that feel, we also need to know that our emotional attachments live on. I never stand at the bima without thinking about my father, Yizkor livracha, blessed memory, his commitment to community and to others. I never enter a hospital room or engage in counseling without thinking about my mother, Yizkor livracha, her concern for others, one person at a time. I can and do talk about trying to emulate their lives, the lessons they pass down by simply how they live their lives. But it is more than the lessons. It is the feeling I have every time I recall their memory. feelings of warmth and love, and feelings of pain and loss. Loss, and that there are major parts of my life that they did not get to witness. Not ever meeting Faye, not seeing my work in the rabbinate. I need to hold on to all those emotions to stay in the relationship. It is how I can honor their very well-lived lives. It is how we all can sustain the memories of those with whom we have had the gift of their love. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may that be God's will. And as we enter into the main part of our Yizkor service, the part of memory, which will begin on 570 in a moment, I will read off the names of those whom we remember this Yom Kippur Day, 5,782. Albert Bamberger, Emily Ariel Bamberger, Ida Bamberger, Morris Began, Sylvia Wolf Began, Betty Brynan, Jerome Brynan, Mitty Christensen, Floyd Cohn, Edith Compton, Tommy Compton, Ella Deitchman, Irv Deitchman, Rose Deitchman, David H. Epstein, Richard Eston, Henry Fear, Charlene Fleischer, Bessie Engelman Gottstein, Joseph Gottstein, Stuart Gottstein, Blanche Haber, Arthur K. Hirsch, Flora Hirsch, Marvin Hirschman, Daniel Karp, Joyce Wiseman Karp, Alfred Katz, Eileen Katz, Fred Katz, Ben Katzeff, Sarah Katzeff, Mary Keneally, Bernard Klein, Ida Klein, Gary Kretschmer, Ben Milgram, Paul Milgram, Pauline Milgram, Florence Munter, Ida Ordo, Thomas Graham Patterson, Bella Procheski, Beulah Rockland, Max Rockland, Sarah Reisig, Nelson Romero, Robert Rosen, Rosalie Rosen, Dorothy Solomon, John Jeremiah Stein, Conrad Steinell, Lois Steinell, Jack Stern, Martha Stern, Nathan Swerdlove, Betty Thompson, Sarah Wolf, Laser Balk, Donald David Alpert, Rosalie Alpert. Our prayers we recite silently begin on page 570 and 1 through page 581. Those who wish to do so may now rise. Please be seated. Continue on page 576. You are not beautiful exactly. You are beautiful inexactly. You let a weed grow by the mulberry and a mulberry grow by the house, so close in the personal quiet of a windy night, it brushes the wall and sweeps away the day till we sleep. The child said it, and it seemed true. Things that are lost are all equal, but it isn't true. If I lost you, the air wouldn't move nor the tree grow. Someone would pull the weed, my flower. The quiet wouldn't be yours if I lost you. I'd have to ask the grass to let me sleep. On page 579, the fifth theme of our Yizkor service on acceptance. Adonai, through all generations, we have found our home in you. Before the mountains rose up, before the birth pangs of the earth, you alone have been with us, steadfast and constant for all time. In the end, you return us to dust, saying, "Come home now. Daughters and sons of Adam and Eve, you are mortal. In your sight 1,000 years pass in an instant, like a fleeting watch in the night, but how brief the span of our lives. Our years flow by in a dream, we sleep away our days. In the morning we blossom in beauty, in the evening we wither away. Burnt like grass in the blasting heat of summer, we perish like chaff in the wind. A human life may be 80 years and 10, or 80 years for those who are blessed with strength. So many days consumed by toil and troubles, then our time is cut short, and too soon we go into the dark. So teach us to number our days, that we may bring home a heart of wisdom. Give us a sense of your presence. Nourish us with your compassion. Knowing your love at the dawn of our life, let us live our days in contentment. May our moments of joy surpass the times of struggle. May we taste the sweetness of each precious day. May the work of our hands bring fulfillment. Page 585. Gratitude for the next generation. If some messenger were to come to us with the offer that death should be overthrown, but with the one inseparable condition that birth should also cease, if the existing generation were given the chance to live forever, but on the clear understanding that never again would there be a child or a youth or first love, never again new persons with new hopes, new ideas, new achievements, ourselves for always and never any others, could the answer be in doubt? When we fear death's decree, let these bring us solace, the memory of loved ones who have gone before us, a vision of generations to come, through whom we reach far into the future beyond our lives. Page 590. Rabbi Judah taught, there are 10 strong things. Iron is strong, but fire melts it. Fire is strong, but water quenches it. Water is strong, but the clouds evaporate it. Clouds are strong, but the wind drives them away. Wind is strong, but the human body bears it. Human beings are strong, but fear casts them down. Fear is strong, but wine allays it. Wine is strong, but sleep overcomes it. Sleep is strong, but death is stronger, and loving kindness survives death. (592), the seventh theme on finding peace, and with that, on 593, Adonai Roi. The Shekhinah, a sheltering presence, makes me whole, causing me to rest in green fields, leading me to calming waters, replenishing my soul, and empowering me to make life-affirming choices in celebration of God's name. Even though I've walked in darkness and no loss, I have not despaired, for you are with me. Your guidance and your nurturing spirit have sustained me. You have set a full table for me when I have been hurt and alienated. You have conferred upon me unique potential, which I strive to realize. From the deep core of my being, I am overflowing with gratitude. I know that your goodness and loving kindness will continue to abide within me, and I will live out my days in God's house. On page 598, those who wish may now rise for El Malay. Merciful God, God Most High, let there be perfect rest for the souls of our loved ones who've gone into eternity. May they find shelter in your presence among the holy and pure, whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold them close to you forever. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May they find a home in you. May they rest in peace. Together we say, Amen. And particularly with the Auschwitz exhibit here in the city for a while longer, if you have not seen it, I urge you to do so. We'll read on the bottom of page 599. Avinu Malkeinu, let there be perfect rest for the souls of the 6 million who died as Jews in the flames of the Shoah. Let there be perfect rest for the countless millions who died because of race, religion, or nationality, political affiliation, or sexual orientation. Hold them close to you forever. Seal their souls for everlasting life in the shelter of your presence, for you are their eternal home. Together we say, Amen. And on page 606, Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayeh d'chol beit Yisrael, b'agala v'zman kari v'imru, Yehei shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam omei omaya, yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, Vitadar, Vitale, Vitalal, Shemei de Kudisha, Brichu, Le'ela, Mikol, Birchata, V'shirata, Tush B'chata, V'nechamata, Dami Ram Be'alma Vimru. Yehe Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chaim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Vimru. O Se Shalom Bimromav. Hu Yaseh Shalom. Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel Vimru. Amen. And although a bit out of order, if we could close our service with "We Remember Them." Please be seated. We're going to shift into our Mincha service, our afternoon service, but I wanted to give everybody just a moment to collect ourselves. It's an emotional shift. So we will just kind of breathe out for a little bit, and then we'll start the Mincha service. It actually starts with Torah service, and it is a shift. You'll notice the shift is actually in the way the Torah is chanted itself, that we have been chanting for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur morning with the trope, the cantillations for high holidays, the special cantillations, but we shift back into the regular cantillation for the rest of the year for chanting Torah on Yom Kippur afternoon. We have a way of these aren't like absolute barrier breaks. We kind of shift, transition, almost in a murky manner from one to the next. But already on Yom Kippur afternoon, we're looking kind of beyond Yom Kippur and kind of to start to move in that direction, both in liturgy and in mood. So with that, I will now call up Louis Bryden, come up to be our Hagba, and for Erica and Pat Clinton to come up to help us unwrap the Torah. Shemo Yakdav. Please be seated. So our Torah reading for this Yom Kippur afternoon you will not find in your Machzor. It is part of what is the more traditional readings for Yom Kippur Mincha. And over the years, in the Reform movement, they've excised out the traditional reading altogether. Conservative Judaism has made it optional. And the reason being, at least in part, is the one verse, offensive verse of a man shall not lie with a man as one lies with a woman, it's an abomination. That is the common translation. There are other ways to interpret that verse. But rather than avoid it, I've always kind of leaned into it, because leaning into it compels us to talk about it, compels us to discuss it, compels us to deal with it, and to deal with our history relative to the verse and our history of discrimination and worse. So I kind of split the difference. I include the one verse, and then I kind of jump, which is in chapter 18 of Leviticus, and then I jump to the beginning of 19, which talks about the need for us to be holy because God is holy, and to contemplate what holiness means for us. So with that, I will ask Saul Epstein to come up to do the Torah blessings. Baruch Adonai Ambarak Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Ambarak Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu lo et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. V'et tzachar ha'lo tishkav mishkavei isha to'eva hi. V'edaber Adonai el Moshe lemor. Daber al kol adat b'nei Yisrael. V'arata lehem kedoshim tiyu. Ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Ishimo v'aviv tira'u. Et shabtotai tishmru. Ani Adonai Elohechem. Al titnu el holim. Elohei masecha lo tasu lachem. Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Thanks, Yasher. I will one day find a way to keep this tallis from falling off. Persistent. I really like this tallis. This is my ordination tallis, but it does, or a bigger pair of shoulders, one of the two. So at this point, I'll ask Lewis to come up and the Clintons to come back up. On bottom of page 340 is Vizot HaTorah, and as the Torah is lifted, I'll ask those who wish to do so to rise. be seated. And I'll ask Ellen Karp to come up to the bema. I would say it has become our tradition, but really she has become our tradition of reading the Haftorah for Yom Kippur afternoon, which is the book of Jonah. Jonah, I want to say Jonah kind of speaks for itself in its desire to elicit a sense of forgiveness and the understanding that not just that we need to atone for our sins, but forgive others of theirs committed toward us. And it's kind of this theme that I started at the beginning of Rosh Hashanah, which is the idea of, given all that we've been through, is to kind of give ourselves a break. And that, and I talked about it in meditation too, the need to, yes, we should do cheshbon hanefesh, an accounting of our souls. Yes, we should try and strive to do better in the year to come. But as we forgive others, that we also forgive ourselves. And with that, we'll start with the blessings before the Haftorah, page 342. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar b'nviim tovim, v'ratzav v'divreihem hanemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Haboker b'Torah, u'Moshe abdo, u'Yisrael amo, u'v'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek.
And the word of Adonai came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh, and proclaim against it, for their evil deeds have risen up before me. But Jonah got up to flee to Tarshish, away from the presence of Adonai. And he went down to Jaffa and found there a ship heading for Tarshish. And he paid its fare and went down into it to head with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of Adonai. But Adonai hurled a great wind upon the sea, a storm at sea so great that the ship was in danger of being shattered to pieces. And the sailors were frightened, cried out, each to his own god, and flung the ship's cargo into the sea to lighten their load. But Jonah had gone down into the hold, the lower deck of the vessel, and he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. And the captain approached him and said to him, "What are you doing sound asleep? Get up, call to your God. Perhaps the God will be kind to us, and we will not perish." And they said each man to his companion, "Let us cast lots, that we might know on whose account this evil event has come to us." So they cast lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. And they said to him, "Tell us, you who have brought this evil upon us, what is your trade, and where have you come from? What is your country, and who are your people?" And he said to them, "I am a Hebrew. I revere Adonai, God of heaven, who made sea and dry land." The men felt great fear, and they asked him, "What have you done?" Because the men knew he was fleeing from Adonai, for so he had told them. And they asked him, "What should we do to you to bring calm to the sea around us?" For the sea was growing more and more stormy. So he said to them, "Lift me up and hurl me into the sea, and the sea will calm down for you, for I know that this great storm came upon you because of me." And the crew rowed hard to return to the dry land, but they could not do it, for the sea was raging more and more fiercely around them. And they called out to Adonai, saying, "Please, Adonai, please do not let us perish because of the life of this man, and do not hold us guilty of shedding innocent blood. For you, Adonai, that which you desired, you have brought about." And they lifted Jonah and hurled him into the sea. Then the sea stopped raging. The men revered Adonai. Great was their reverence. So they offered to Adonai a sacrifice and made vows. And Adonai provided a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Jonah prayed to Adonai his God from the belly of the fish. And he said, I called to Adonai in my distress, and God answered me. I cried out from the belly of the netherworld, and you heard my voice. Into the depths you cast me, into the heart of the sea, and the floods engulfed me. All your billowing, breaking waves swept over me. And I thought to myself, I was banished from before your eyes. Will I ever again gaze upon your holy temple? The waters closed in over me, the deep engulfed me, rushes wrapped around my head. I descended to the low point of the mountains. The gates of the earth closed upon me forever. Yet you, Adonai, my God, raised up my life from the pit. When my life fainted away, I called Adonai to mind, and my prayer came to you, to your holy temple. They who cling to empty folly forsake their own welfare. But I, with a shout of thanksgiving, I will sacrifice to you what I have vowed I will fulfill. Rescue comes from Adonai. Adonai commanded the fish, and it spewed Jonah out upon dry land. And the word of Adonai came to Jonah a second time. Get up, go to the great city of Nineveh, and call out to it the proclamation that I tell you. So Jonah got up and went to Nineveh, according to the word of Adonai. Now Nineveh was a great city of God, 3 days' journey across. And Jonah started out and made his way into the city, the distance of a 1-day walk. And he called out and said, 40 more days and Nineveh shall be overturned. The people of Nineveh trusted in God, and they proclaimed a fast. And they put on sackcloth from the richest to the poorest. And the word reached the king of Nineveh, and he got up from his throne, took off his robe, put on sackcloth, and sat in ashes. And he cried out and said in Nineveh, by decree of the king and his nobles, no person or beast, of flock or herd, shall taste anything. They shall not graze, and they shall not drink water. They shall be covered with sackcloth, person and beast, and shall call loudly to God. Let all turn back from their evil ways and from the violence which is in their hands. Who knows, God may turn and relent, turn back from the heat of anger, so that we do not perish. God saw what they did, how they were turning back from their evil ways, and God relented from the evil plan for them and did not carry it out. But to Jonah this was a great evil, and it made him angry. So he prayed to Adonai, saying, please, Adonai, is this not what I said when I was still in my own country? This is why I fled to Tarshish to begin with. For I knew that you are a gracious and compassionate God, endlessly patient and abounding in steadfast love, ready to repent of evil. And now, Adonai, please take my life from me, for it is better for me to die than to live. And Adonai said, is your anger so dear to you? Then Jonah left the city, found a place east of the city, made himself a shelter there, and sat under it in the shade until he might see what would become of the city. And Adonai Elohim provided a gourd and made it rise up over Jonah to give shade for his head and rescue him from his evil situation. And Jonah rejoiced with great joy because of the gourd. But at dawn the next day, God provided a worm that attacked the gourd, and it withered. And as the sun rose, God provided an oppressive wind from the east, and the sun beat down on Jonah's head, making him faint. He begged for death, saying, it is better for me to die than to live. Then God said to Jonah, are you good and angry about the gourd? And he said, I am good and angry to the point of death. Then Adonai said, you pitied the gourd, which you neither worked for nor grew, which appeared overnight and perished overnight. Should I then not have compassion for the great city of Nineveh, a place of more than 120,000 human beings, unable to tell their right hand from their left, and many beasts?
Blessings after the Haftorah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol haolamim tzadik b'chol hadorot ha'el hane'eman haomer v'yaseh hamdaber mkayem Shekol devarav emet v'tzedek, ne'eman atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'ne'emanim devarecha, v'davarecha midvarecha, achor le'yeshuv rekam, ki el melech ne'eman v'rakaman ata, baruch ata Adonai, ha'el ha'ne'eman b'chol devarav. Rachem al Tzion ki hi beit chayenu, v'la'avat nefesh toshia b'mhera v'yameinu, Baruch atah Adonai, misameach Tzion v'vanecha. Samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu be'elhu hanavi avdecha, uv'malchut beit David mishichecha, b'mhera yavo v'yagel libeinu. Al kiso lo yeshev zar v'lo yinchalu, od acherim et kevodo. Ki v'shem kodsheka nishpata lo, shelo yichbed ne'ro le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, magen David. Al haTorah ve'al havodah ve'al hanvim ve'al yom haKippurim hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu limchila v'lislaka l'chapara lechavod ultifaret. Akol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvarchim otak yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol chai tamid le'olam va'ed bracha emet v'kayam la'ad. Baruch atah Adonai Melech Mohel v'solech lavotenu lanavod amo beit Yisrael uma'avir ashmotenu b'chol shana v'shana melech al kol ha'aretz mekadesh Yisrael v'yom ha'kippurim. Continue our service. Those who wish to do so may now rise. Page 352. Yahalalu et Shem Adonai ki niskav shemo levado. Who may ascend the mountain of the eternal, and who may rise up to the place where holiness abides? A person of clean hands and pure heart, who has neither taken a false oath nor sworn deceitfully. Such a person shall receive God's blessing and kindness from the well of salvation. Eitz Chaim, our Torah is an Eitz Chaim, a tree of life. Kila Kakto leads us to Eitz Chaim, page 353. The Amidah for this Yom Kippur Mincha begins on page 356 and goes through page 410. We'll recite the Amidah silently this Yom Kippur afternoon, either the words on the page or the meditations in your heart, and when you've completed the Amidah, you may be seated. As we continue our service, one thing I wanted to point out on 410, where the Amida ends with the Shalom Bimromav, it adds words for Yamim Norim, these days of awe, Rosh Hashanah through Yom Kippur, Val Kol Yoshvei Tevel, for all, peace for all who dwell on earth, and that the themes for this time of year are not only for our Jewish world, but for the entire world. Continue now on page 412, Krachemav. Page 414, our God and God of our ancestors, we are your people and you are our God. We are your children and you are our parent. We are the people who serve you and you call us to serve. We are your community and you are our portion. We are your legacy and you are our purpose. We are your flock and you are our shepherd. We are your vineyard and you watch over us. We are your work and you are a maker. We are your beloved and you are our lover. We are your treasure, and you are the one we cherish. We are your people, and you reign over us. We offer you our words, and you offer us yours. So forgive us, pardon us, lead us to atonement. On page 416, those who wish to do so may rise for Shamnu, the short confession. I da da die die, I da da die die, I da da die die die. Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu, Dibarnu Dofi, Evinu, Vehirshanu, Zadnu, Chamasnu, Talfanu Sheker, Yatsnu Kizavnu, Latsnu, Maradnu, Niatsnu, Sararnu, Avinu, Pashanu, Sararnu, Kishinu Oref, Rashanu, Shichatnu, Tiavnu, Tainu, Tihitanu. Of these wrongs we are guilty, we betray, we steal, we scorn, we act perversely, we are cruel, we scheme, we are violent, we slander, we devise evil, we lie, we ridicule, we disobey, We abuse, we defy, we corrupt. We commit crimes, we are hostile, we are stubborn. We are immoral, we kill, we spoil, we go astray, we lead others astray. On the bottom of page 421, Vial Kulam. The middle of page 429, we continue with Avinu Malkeinu. Please be seated. Continue on page 431. Give yourself to the dream. The lion and the lamb, the vine and the fig tree, build it from the stones of earth, like the slow accretion of coral reef and the mountains that rise by inches. Knowledge of the good shall fill up the earth as the sea overflows with water. Lift up your eyes and look to the stars. None shall hurt and none shall destroy, and great shall be the peace of your children. Those who wish may rise, page 432, Aleinu.
Lord, Aleinu, Kol Amona.
Please be seated. So in a moment, we'll take a short break, like 10 minutes, before we start our Nila, our concluding service leading into Havdalah, and break the fast. But just some quick scheduling announcements about what's coming up. On Zoom this Shabbos morning, Saturday morning, 9:30 study, followed by a 10:30 service. On Sunday, we will be erecting a sukkah starting at 11 o'clock at our community garden in Mannheim Park at 43rd and Forest. And then about 1 o'clock, gather with family and the entire congregation to decorate the sukkah in anticipation of our Sukkot celebration beginning this week. So with that, unless there's other announcements, anything else coming up? No, we're good? Okay, take 10 minutes and then come back. It's always a wonderful way to conclude Yom Kippur with Nila.